their tactic of projecting what they are doing onto their opponent.
Understand, it's not necessary for people to believe disinformation in order to weaken democratic institutions. You just have to flood a country's public square with enough raw sewage. You just have to raise enough questions, spread enough dirt, plant enough conspiracy theorizing that citizens no longer know what to believe. Once they lose trust in their leaders, in mainstream media, in political institutions, in each other, in the possibility of truth, the game's won.
Last year, the U.S. intelligence community concluded that in 2016, Russia launched a campaign of disinformation to discredit Hillary Clinton and help elect Donald Trump. One of the sharpest analysts of Russia's so-called active measures is former U.S. government intelligence analyst Clint Watts. You think that it was successful, and in fact, you specifically write that Russia helped give Trump Michigan and Wisconsin, and therefore the presidency. What's your proof of that?
Just from my analysis of watching it and looking at the votes. Essentially, those were the two closest contests in the United States. And the part about social bots that's important is it allows you to amplify your message to such an extent that you can change the way the media environment operates, and you cause mainstream media to actually react to the story. So the first part was awareness, and our dashboard, what we tried to show is there's two parts to influence. The first thing you do is you infiltrate the audience, and you do that by mimicking them. Then once you have that audience paying attention to you, that's when you start to influence. And that's really what we watched over a couple-year period.
Now, you and your team, you guys created a website here, right? Walk me through this, because these aren't the kind of websites I like to hang out on. This is Hamilton 68.
Yeah, so for years, my colleagues and I, we tracked Russian accounts or Russian-motivated accounts over time.
So this is actually a live feed of information, Russian bots and Russian propaganda, a word that you would use. Literally right now there are Russian bots, according to your website, that are putting this out into the world. Is that correct?
What is Hamilton 68 and what has it done?
So I wrote about it when it was formed not even a year ago, last summer, because it was yet another example, probably the most vivid one yet, of this kind of union between Democrats on the one hand and neocons on the other. They said that their purpose of their group was to combat disinformation and the attack on the American democracy by Russia and other groups. And their main kind of feature was that they would have this dashboard called Hamilton 68 that purported to track the activity of Russian influencers on Twitter by tracking 600 accounts. Nobody knows which accounts they've designated as influence of Russia. They're not necessarily Russian. They're just people who, in the eyes of Bill Kristol and his friends, are people who espouse Russia or pro-Russia themes, and they just constantly make claims about what Russia is doing on Twitter that the U.S. media, in the most shocking way, uncritically ingest and puts into their headlines as fact about what Russia is doing.
Now, this data comes from Hamilton 68. That's a web dashboard that any of our viewers can look at, and it tracks around 600 Russia-linked accounts. And it doesn't provide the names of those accounts, because if it did, the Russians could simply change them.